Welcome to our special meeting on the 17th of May. At this time, I ask that you would silence any electronic devices you may have. And if you desire to speak in front of the council tonight, please get a speaker's card outside the door, fill it out, and get it to our city clerk. Because this is a special meeting, we don't have a chaplain here, so we'll dispense with the prayer, but I'm going to ask Councilman Doug Faircloth to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is now officially open, and I ask the council members to please sign in. Be noted that all council members are present, as well as the mayor, city clerk, and our city attorney and our distinguished department heads. Moving to item 4, I ask for action by the council on tonight's agenda. Did I get a motion, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
motion to approve the agenda as stated for tonight.
So second.
I have a motion second to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by voting. Okay, that's all we'll have on tonight's agenda then. Anybody in the audience tonight that would like to speak on any issues we have on tonight's agenda? If you want to speak, this will be the time to speak on any agenda items. Anybody out there want to speak at this time? Seeing no one, we're going to move on to item 6, discussion appointment of Charter Review Committee, which is one of our 2 agenda items. So I'll open it up to discussion by our city council members.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
I'd like for us to move forward with the appointment of the Charter Review Committee, taking into consideration that each one of us has an appointee. Once those people have been chosen by the city council, the mayor, and the clerk, that then we would let them get formed and let them pick their person. Now, for an understanding or misunderstanding, for the time sequence that we have given them report back to us. With that, my expectations is that when they report back within 30 days, they report back either with a report or they report back stating that they need more time to work on that, and we would either accept it or not accept it at that time. I noticed in my motion, it was 30 days after they formed, so, but for the time frame, I would not limit them to 30 days, but if they come back and say we need additional time, then we will honor their request. And that's just my comments on that.
Okay, any other comments?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Blocker.
I still maintain that I believe that we ought to have the citizens' input prior, yes or no, to where they want a charter change or a review prior to going out, selecting this committee, etc. We have not informed the citizens of this town. They tell me today, this whole past week, many people don't even know about it. Well, I don't know. They don't listen to radio. And the method and the means, and I told them people that I stated at the last meeting, they'd get a questionnaire in the water bill. Well, that didn't happen. So I think that we ought to get the input from the people before you try to form a committee.
Duly noted. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Cox.
Yes, adding to what Councilman Hayes said, I did have a concern with the motion the other evening of 30 days, but as you qualified that, I'm good with that also.
Is that it? Okay. I'm going to hand the gavel over to the Vice President so I can make my remarks, because my remarks will be my opinion also, and I want to make sure that's understood. One thing I want to be sure of, at the last meeting, I made a proposal to make the selection arbitrary, and that was not taken very well. But there were two other parts to it. One was to make sure that the people on the committee were, in fact, citizens of Crestview, and number two, that they were registered voters. I would hope that we would agree that those second two parts would be true. Would we want people that are not in the city or not registered voters to be on this committee?
Think not.
Mr. President, I think citizens and of Crestview and a registered
Right.
voter.
And hopefully we've met that criteria, but maybe, do you think we need to run a review to make sure? Because sometimes, I will tell you, sometimes you assume, you see someone all the time, you talk to them all the time in the city, you assume they're in the city, and then you find out they actually live on county property, and they're not registered in the city of Crestview. So my suggestion would be, once we've announced the committee members, that the city clerk would run a check to make sure they're both residents of the city and registered voters. Anybody have an issue with that?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I just assumed that that was a prerequisite when I was considering who I would choose. If we each name our choices tonight, then we check them out, then we're just backing up. I think we ought to have all our ducks in a row before we name our choices.
Well,
We ought to have some operating rules and what we're asking them to do, including, assuring that they're in the city and registered voters. I went ahead and checked mine out.
Mr. President.
yes, Mr. Hawley.
I agree with part of what he said, that I think before you appoint them, you need to know if that's a criteria that you are putting on them. You don't need to appoint somebody and then find out they don't meet the criteria.
Well, the only issue I have with that is that was my suggestion at the last meeting. And it went down, I said 3 criteria. It should be arbitrary, should be citizens and registered voters. And it got thrown down with the arbitrariness, and I just wanted to make sure. I think we're all on the same page, but I want to be sure, that's all.
Well, if we name our selections tonight,
All right.
and then for some reason we do a check on them and find out they're not qualified, what qualifications have we set forth? We haven't agreed on any of that yet. And so if we name them, then we got to go back to square one, have another workshop later on, and then name our choices again after they've already, and then qualify them.
Well, all I'm saying is we had the opportunity to agree to that at the last meeting when I brought it up, and we should have done it then. Yes, Mr. Hayes.
I think Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Cox
Mr.
had
Cox.
his hand first.
Yeah, I don't know why we're getting hung up on these items. Everyone that should be under consideration should meet all those qualifications, and any one a council member names, that puts your reputation on the line too. So, it better be someone that's up to the task. I'm ready for that.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
Yes, Mr. President. If we find that, just me thinking, if we find out that someone's been selected and the clerk checks and they find out that individual doesn't qualify for what we specified, then if it be 1, 2, or all the council members, then we can always come back and make another appointee, since I guess we understand now what the criteria is, basically those 2 items that you made reference to.
Yeah, and maybe I'm just being overly cautious. I think we all implicitly understood that, but I just wanted to be sure. So I'm for going ahead. If there's an issue, we'll deal with it afterwards.
Well, why can't you appoint them conditionally on that, and if they turn out don't meet that requirement, then
That's a great suggestion, Mr. Hawley.
Yeah, we can add to that.
That we appoint them with the condition they are, and if they aren't, then they disqualify themselves.
But should we not?
Mr. Whitten, We
Yes.
can check tonight to see if they're a citizen of Crestview, if we need to, just by going to the property appraiser's office, if they're here, and I can get their address. And if they're not a registered voter, they can go down the street and register tomorrow.
But shouldn't we first get it in the record what the qualifications are?
Well, I hate to restate myself, but we had that opportunity last meeting.
But,
That's not the way
But we
it's
didn't.
understood.
so now we need to.
I think we implied that. We threw out the arbitrariness. We said we don't want to draw names out of the hat. We didn't say that we didn't want to meet the other two criteria.
Well, you could get a motion now that the people appointed have to meet that criteria, and they'll be appointed contingent
Contingent.
on meeting, and if they don't, they would no longer be a member.
Will I satisfy you, Mr. Fairclough?
Yes, if we can make a motion, that is, there's no motion on the floor, is there?
No, there isn't. Ms. Hawley suggested we do that. If you could do that, that would be fine.
Okay, I'll make a motion that our qualifications for a member of the Crestview Charter Review Committee is that they, one, have a residence inside the city limits of Crestview, and they are also a registered voter.
And you ought to add to that, in that they will be appointed conditioned on that, and if they don't meet that requirement, they will no longer be a member.
What he said.
I second.
Okay, does everybody understand the motion? Everybody understand the motion? That we're going to set the requirements, now you must be a resident of the city of Crestview and a registered voter. And if you get appointed and you don't meet the criteria, then your appointment will be negated. Any discussion on that? Please vote. All right, be it noted, 5 for that motion, none against. The second thing I want to bring up is the Institute for Seniors Professional, ISP. I handed out, was emailed to you what the ISP does. And I met with them last week to find out if they in fact wanted to work with us. It's very important to them and important to me that everybody understands what the ISP does. They will not come in and micromanage meetings, give opinions, do recommendations. They are in the business of process management. And that is, they will sit down and make sure that meetings are scheduled, agendas are set up, speakers are called in. They might impose certain time limits, make sure nobody's taking over the committee, dominating the committee, kind of control and keep them on focus. They have no dog in the hunt. They are apolitical. And if you look at the agreement that they asked us that we would sign, they're very adamant about saying that they could in no way ever be associated with making a recommendation or giving their opinion on the future of city government in Crestview. All they would do is help us manage the process of conducting the public meetings, not involved in a recommendation. In fact, let me read you an email I got from the president today as a follow-up to the agreement. Because when I met with them, it was a panel I went in front of, and they brought it to the full membership who voted on it. And the president said, here's how they voted on it, is that key to our vote was trust that the council, meaning us, would understand and fully subscribe to the limited role ISP would play advising the committee how to proceed and not represent to anyone the eventual committee recommendation as an ISP product. In other words, ISP vote is premised on the council agreeing that ISP will use its experience with conducting an impartial study process without providing opinions or contributing to the recommendation itself. So, based on that, I'd like to get your input on how you feel about the agreement, whether we should go forward with the agreement between us and the ISP.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Blocker.
you answered my first question was going to be, so I didn't have to ask you, who made the contact? You did that.
Yes, I did. On
All
behalf
right,
of the
now,
council.
number two, in all the data that I have been given, I find no place anywhere whatsoever in them, this unit, in performing their task. I find no place anywhere of any type of fees, et cetera, hourly basis, on the contract, or what have you? Could you answer that at this moment?
Yes, it was in the flyer. They're a nonprofit and do not charge for their services.
Do not
They
charge.
do not charge for their services.
I understood that correctly. Do
Yes.
not charge.
Do not charge.
All right, I also feel like then, if they're going to be brought in, which is probably a plus, would it not be advisable to let this committee have a little input on that, whether they want this?
That's what we're doing.
Research?
That's what we're doing right now.
That's what we're in the process of doing.
Yeah.
So in favor of that, I understand, yes, maybe a great move.
The only change was, I sent a draft agreement between us and the ISP. I didn't send it, but it was sent out to all council members. And after that, I had a conference with Mr. Hawley, and he suggested that we add a paragraph at the very end of that, and that is in the new agreement that was handed out this evening. The original one you got did not have the last paragraph. Last paragraph says that the ISP will comply with the Florida restrictions concerning public records, public meetings, sunshine laws, which means there can be no form of communication between ISP members and the committee outside of public meetings, nor no form of communication between the ISP and the city council until the process is over. So basically, they would be tied to the same conditions as the committee. Committee is going to be briefed on what they have to comply with in terms of public meetings, public records, and the sunshine law. ISP will be briefed and have to comply with the same conditions because they basically will be an outreach of that committee. And so that paragraph was added to the agreement. Does anybody have any issues with the agreement, or would you give me permission to go ahead and have it put on letterhead and sign the agreement to ISP?
I would be in agreement with that, Mr. President.
Would you make a
That we
motion?
Move forward. I'd like to make a motion that the draft proposal between the Crestview City Council and the Institute for Senior Professionals be instituted and signed by our council president.
Second.
A motion second to involve the ISP in helping out this committee. Any more discussion? Can I have a vote on it, please? All right, we have 5 yeas on that. You just have to retrain me. Now, the other thing, and it goes back to what Councilman Hayes and Councilman Cox both said, and this is just not my personal opinion. I spent a total of 3 hours with the ISP people, an hour and a half with the president, an hour and a half with the panel, and they were very concerned that we would lock a committee into 30 days. I'm concerned about that. And I realize that we've just made an option to go beyond 30 days. And so I guess I can live with that. When we first brought this up and Councilman Cox suggested 90 days, I said we probably could do it in 90 days. But then the last meeting, we brought it down to 30 days. And I really think not only are we blocking them in, but if we don't add that caveat that they could extend, then ISP will not get involved. They told me that their belief is that this could not be done in 30 days and with their assistance, and so they wouldn't want to get involved.
Mr. President, it would appear to me that, I think that time was way too short, but it would appear to me that if you use the 90 days that Mr. Cox had originally talked about, then if they get through before then bring it in. I mean, there's not anything saying they gotta wait 90 days, but I think that's more realistic, and that would satisfy this professional bunch that's getting involved.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
Yes, Mr. President, if we look at the proposal that we just voted for, we'll note if we read that on the line, the council will not impose an unrealistic schedule lest the process be set up for failure. That's why I made the reference to the 30 days, what was in the motion?
And that's what they told me. They said, if you keep it 30 days, we would consider that unrealistic, and they wouldn't dislike us, they just wouldn't want to be involved, because they didn't think we'd be successful in 30 days. I think what Mr. Hawley just offered to us is an excellent opportunity to have a motion to extend it to 90 days, and no harm if they finish early. If they can do it 30 days, God bless them.
Mr. President,
60
need a
days.
motion? I also move.
Mr. Blocker?
I move we extend this to 90 days.
Was that a second I heard?
Shannon did.
No, it does.
Amendment, Mr. President. Can I amend this motion?
Amend his motion?
Well, make an amendment to the motion.
Okay.
And my amendment would be, because we're still locking them in on the 90 days, that we make a reference to the letter on that we don't set them to unrealistic time. It might proceed hopefully before the 90, but it might be more than 90. But my motion would be that in addition to the 90 days, that if additional time is needed, the committee would come back and request additional time past the 90 days. That's the amendment to Mr. Block, to the motion.
I think that's a good amendment. Somebody needs to
You don't
second
need
it.
it.
Second.
Why don't we just, Mr. Block, why don't we just restate the motion? Do you have any issue with asking for an extension if they need more than 90 days?
I have no problem, but let's get the thing in order. Dot all the i's and cross the t's. I made a motion to extend it to 90 days.
Okay, so then
Well,
Mr. Hayes has
you
made,
could withdraw it, the motion, and then make a new motion that if they needed more time after the 90 days, they would be granted it.
Do we have one or two motions on the floor, Mr. President?
we only have one motion, and if you wanted to change it to the suggestion by Mr. Hayes, you could withdraw that motion and just restate the new motion, saying the additional time.
To satisfy the meetings of mine, I withdraw that motion.
Thank you. Would you like to make another motion?
Now I make a motion to extend it to a period of 90 days or plus or minus be added. Whatever is needed.
Okay, whatever it is.
I second that.
All right, now we have motion and second to up the time window to 90 days, less if not needed that much, or an extension if needed more. Any discussion on that? Please go to voting. Five yeses on that. Moving right along here. I think I had one other, I still have the floor, just, give me just a minute here. One of the other things that you probably had mailed to you was a statement that the committee members will have to read and sign once they're appointed tonight, because although they won't get a full ethics briefing by Mr. Hawley until the first organizational meeting, they will need to know that the moment they are appointed, they are covered by those laws anyway. And so a statement tonight would have to be signed acknowledging that they're covered under the public law, the public meeting and public records laws of Florida. And so you have those forms that they will sign once they've been appointed tonight. Now I would like to reiterate one thing, and that is that I think we decided the last meeting, the first 2 weeks will be for organizational purposes only. The 90 days will not start ticking off until the first 2 weeks are done. Right? We all agree to that, and we'll make sure the committee understands that. Now, Mr. Fairclough, to your issue of let's be very clear in defining what we want them to do. In the organization, they'll work out the chairman, the meeting and stuff like that. But I think we need to tell them one very specific goal we want them to do. Agree with that? Isn't that basically what you're saying? We only want you to do one thing. I'll give you my opinion, and that is we just want them to research different forms of government and come back and make a recommendation to the city council. The recommendation could be keep what you have, or we recommend you change to this, or you change to this, or whatever. But we don't want anything else covered in there? That's what I understood at that workshop.
Well, to a novice, I'll use that term for lack of a better one. 90 days may appear like just bukus of time. I would suggest that we require a certain number of meetings for them during that 90 days. No fewer than 3 or something like that. I don't mean that you will meet 7 times in 90 days or whatever. I'm just saying that we need to make sure they're going to do what we're asking them to do.
Any other comments?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
in reference to my distinguished colleague here, in my opinion, I think once we appoint the committee, we don't have any dealings with the committee. They will be, once they form, they will set their own schedule and their own agenda, and we shouldn't get involved with that, dictating to them how many meetings they should have, when they should have them. I don't think we should get involved in that. I think our objective and the task that we're assigned are to select the committee, and that's it. That's just my
All right.
I agree with that, but they need to notify Teresa, I guess, when they're gonna meet, because she's gonna take care of publishing the notice of meetings to make sure they're properly advertised.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Fairclough.
I didn't say, nor did I mean to imply that we would make them up a schedule.
No.
I said all we were going to do was just require that they meet.
But what Ms. Hawley just said, Teresa will be intimately involved with that group also as our assistant to the city council. She will be at the meetings. She will be tasked with sending out public notices, anything like that. She will be in the loop in everything that's going on. And I think with our assistant involved, ISP involved, and a chairman of the committee, that the people we appointed, I believe, really want to meet and make suggestions, and I think they will meet, and I don't have a concern they're not going to meet.
Well, I have no concern that they won't meet. I'm just saying that at the end of 90 days, they said, well, we've only had 2 meetings. We haven't had time to do this. And that we have no recourse. I'm sure that the people we select for this committee are going to do a fantastic job. I'm just trying to head off problems at the pass.
Mr. Blocker?
My question, let me address it to our counselor. Charlie, that be at your discretion where you would like and would meet with this committee?
I don't think I should meet with the committee. I think I should meet with them to tell them about the public record.
Well, I mean, in the initial,
Yeah, on that.
by all means.
But, sure, I would do that, to let them know what obligations they've got under the Sunshine Law and the Public Records Law. And they've got to have an agenda and for each meeting, and, they're gonna need to elect a chair and a vice chair and a secretary, and they're gonna have to decide how they're gonna keep the minutes, if they're gonna record them and then make them, have somebody do them from the recording or whatever, I don't know. But they're gonna have to do that.
But if per se, a question was to arrive that needs a counselor's opinion, you would be available, is that correct?
Yes, I guess I'd be available, but I think the less I have to do with it, the better.
Right, okay, that's what I want to
I'm
get
the
clarified.
same- in the same shoes as the council, as far as I'm
Right,
concerned. I don't think
exactly.
council needs to be involved in it.
Leave 'em
I
alone.
don't think I need to be involved, other than the public records and that kind of stuff.
Very good. Okay, Mr. President, finish.
Thank you.
Mr.
Any
Britton?
other comments, questions?
I have just one, we have established, on the website, we have established an agenda page so that when Ms. Galliard gets the agendas done or gets them out, we can publish them just like we do the others now. And IT guru over here has established a charter review page, so if there's anything they want out in the public for opinions or anything else, all they have to do is let us know and we'll get that out on the page. So if anybody's interested in it, all that, it's just like the other agendas, they can sign up to get the notice just like that, and they'll get a text when the agenda is published.
I understand that, Teresa, you got something where you can put it in the paper.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I will have it in the
I think
paper.
it's better if it's in the paper as well as posted, but
I think it needs, supposed to be in the paper as well as on the website.
Yeah, doesn't
well,
have to be
there
in the
too,
paper,
but it won't hurt posted either.
Right.
Mr. Cox?
Yes, clarification, please, on when we name committees, what date, when's the effectivity of being under public records laws?
Tonight.
As soon
When they're
as they're
named,
appointed.
as soon as they're named?
That's why they're going to sign these documents.
She's
Okay.
got
All right.
that.
Just like when,
Okay.
even though you weren't sworn in till the
Yes.
1st of April, you were covered by, on election night, you became covered under the Sunshine Law. Any other comments, any action by anybody? All right, we're at the point of the meeting where we're going to announce our appointees to this committee, and I'm going to give that first opportunity to our honorable mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. My appointee is Joshua Molyneux. Right here, Joshua serves the city now as the vice chairman of the Crestview Housing Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask you next.
Thank you, Mr. President. My appointee is Miss Adrienne McKinney with McKinney Funeral Home, and she's out there. Wave, Adrienne.
Councilman Faircloth.
Yes, my appointment is Reverend Gene Strickland.
Okay. He's not in the audience tonight, is he? Okay. All right. Minister Hayes.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, I'd like to make a nomination, and I'd like to make a comment also.
Okay.
My appointment is Reverend Sanford Hayes. For the record, he is my brother. He's a minister. He's been assistant principal. He's been in the community. He's well represented and well liked by the community. Participates in a lot of different things. People might say, well, that's your brother. My brother understands this. He was on the prior committee. And in my opinion, he's well briefed and well knowledge on that, open-minded, open thinking. So I don't want the people get the wrong impression that just because he's my brother, that I nominated him for. I nominated him because I think he's one of the better men for the job.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Mr. Blocker.
Mr. President, it gives me great honor and pleasure to nominate a feller I feel is qualified for this thing by the name Ellis Connor.
Ellis Connor. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Blocker. Before I make my announcement, Mr. Hawley, what will we do by the people announced tonight that aren't here and they need to sign those forms? What can we do to get those forms signed? Any thoughts?
Somebody's going to have to contact them to sign.
You'll notify them, will you? Okay.
Or
Thank you.
maybe the one that appointed them ought to get them signed.
All right, for the final appointee, I've nominated a young, intelligent individual, business owner in this city by the name of Andrew Rensich. Right there. And that finishes,
Mr. Cox?
yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Cox.
Final one, I wonder what.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
That's all
This
right.
is being taped, by the way, so that's an error on my part.
All right, I nominate Michelle Simmons, that's S-I-M-M-O-N-S.
Michelle Simmons, okay, and she's not here tonight.
Oh, she works still about now.
Okay.
Her information's on page 14 of growth management handout.
Mr. Hawley, just a question for you now. If someone is appointed tonight and they're on another city committee, is there any conflict of interest there?
As long as they keep their discussions regarding this in the meetings and abide by the sunshine law, I don't see where there'd be a problem.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
And that's something, that's important that they be gotten in touch with immediately and know that they can't talk to each other about this stuff. 'Cause if they do, they violate the sunshine law, then anything that follows that's null and void.
Okay, moving on to our next issue, which is, I gotta find my agenda again. We're going to discuss the Triumph Fund projects as submitted by Mr. Steele. And open it up for discussion.
Mr. Whitten, so that the committee members who are here are clear, they need to see Teresa to sign that form before they leave the building.
Yeah, if you hadn't heard that. If you're here, go ahead and sign that form. Teresa has it before you leave.
And we do have a copy for you to take home, so you know what you're signing.
Discussion on the project submitted by Mr. Steele.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Steele.
I read the projects, and I think they're very good projects that we should proceed and try and see if we can get Triumph funds to help with those.
Do you see any need to change the priority as identified by Mr. Steele?
No, I think the road projects as well as the stormwater project are in line with what the, I'm not familiar, haven't been to a Triumph meeting, but I think the things that they're looking for in their projects would be along in line with something like this. Benefits the whole city as well as the county.
Any other comments?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Blocker.
I agree with what Mr. Hayes said, because part of his recommendation is what three of us have been working on for months anyhow. So I concur with his recommendations.
Without any other comments, I would just say that it was the experts that submitted these, and so I believe their priorities ought to be what they say they are, so.
And
could I-
Mr. President, if I may
Yes, Mr.
add
Mayor.
too, in department head meeting this morning, there was unanimous support from the entire staff, department heads for this proposal here. It's been worked on for a very long time. I think it's very valid.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hayes.
Yeah, Mr. President, just for transparency, we might want to announce what those projects that were submitted to Mr. Steele, because I don't know if everybody was privy to that information. If you might briefly let them inform the public what the projects are that were submitted by Mr. Steele.
Okay, I can do that.
Why don't you have a motion approving them, state what they are in the motion?
There we go. Why don't you make a motion, Mr. Hayes? Make a motion to approve, and then list each one of these.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Clark.
Yes, there's 4 projects on this, but they're not prioritized by 1, 2, 3, 4. And I suggest we do that. Some of the verbiage states it, P.J. Adams at the very end, but I think that should be number 1.
That, if I may interject, Mr. Whitten, since Wayne and I went over these extensively. We have 3 projects as the city. The P.J. Adams, he is just encouraging that we follow them up and encourage that to go ahead as far as a county project, not a city project. So the 3 projects, Raspberry Road, Medcrest, Tadugan, and Stormwater Project are our 3 projects that we want to present to the county, to everybody. And then we're encouraging as a byproduct that the P.J. Adams be prioritized within the county.
Well, can't you on those three, have you got a priority to this?
He does it on the
Well,
cover letter.
part of the motion should be that you approve those 3 and prioritize them and then whatever number way you go.
I believe if you look at and this is the way I read it, transportation plan, if you look at 6-12, roadway priority projects, and I looked at it, those are the priorities. P.J. Adams, Antioch Road, Raspberry Road, North-South Connector Road, Old Bethel Road. Oh, but he didn't submit all those, did he? Okay. Well, would someone care to make a motion then, what priority we want to submit these? And we'll name them at that time.
You need a motion to accept his recommendations.
To accept them by names, otherwise accept
Then
the
we'll
priorities by
prioritize.
number one, whatever, number two, whatever, number three. Not three priorities.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'm sort of lost what we're
All-
looking for. By the projects or by, and then prioritize them or prioritize them as we could name the projects?
What Mr. Hawley was suggesting is that when we say we want to prioritize them this way, that will be saying what the projects are. So I make a I make a motion that we submit these, priority one, Raspberry Road Extension, priority two, whatever order you make your motion.
Okay.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Cox?
If you read the last, Mr. Steele's last statement, in my opinion, this planned project should receive initial priority for implementation and funding. It's been on the books the longest of all, and I still think that we as a council body should submit that as being number one, although it's technically a county project.
You talking?
Our support should be for that number one. It's been ongoing the longest of all these four things. Raspberry Road, that's come about just in recent times, and I don't think that should be put any priority ahead of P.J. Adams.
Mr. Whitten, if I may comment, if we put P.J. Adams as one of our top three priorities, we will only get two more.
With what?
We will only get two more. The way I understand it, we're going to be able to submit three. So if we say that P.J. Adams is a priority for the city of Crestview for the Triumph funds, we only get two more. If I can make a suggestion for your motion, you can make your motion just like it says on here. I move that we submit these three projects, and priority one is Raspberry Road, priority two is Medcrest to Dugan Connector, priority three is the Shady Lane Stormwater Project, and the city council I also make a motion that the city council fully support the P.J. Adams widening project as a priority in the council, for the county.
Yes, Mr. Fairclough.
And Mr. Steele's submitted paperwork here under P.J. Adams Parkway / Antioch Road Tier 1. It says that this remains the city's highest priority.
That's true, but is it a city project or a county project and state project?
Well, I don't know, it just said the city's highest priority.
I think that is both, actually.
You haven't been recognized, ma'am. You
I'm
need.
sorry, may I speak? or
No,
will that
no,
be
not
later?
not at this time. We're having private discussion right now. During the general comments, you may speak. Mr. Jones, though, I would like to get your input.
Mr. Cook, he's been working on it with the county on the engineer. You make your statement, what you want to say about that particular project. Talking about the PJMs.
I agree with what Ms. Roy said. We should submit 3 projects from the city and then back up the county project as a county project.
Because it's not really our project.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr.
and just a comment in reference to that P.J. Adams, we all know that there's a need for that. But that's, if Triumph would do money, they would do it to the county and not to the city anyway. So that P.J. Adams, we have to keep in mind, is not our highway, not our road, just like 85 is not ours. And I think the citizens need to realize that we have no control over P.J. Adams, as well as we have no control over 85. And so I would be willing to make a motion at this time, Mr. President.
Go ahead and make a motion.
I make a motion that we accept, send to Triumph the three projects, with the number one priority being the Raspberry Road project, number two being the Medcrest to Duggan Connector Road, and number three being the Stonewater project, in those in that order.
And then support for,
And also include in that motion that we provide support to Oglesby County with the 4-laning of the P.G. Adams corridor.
Second.
motion second to prioritize them. The, well, let me get to discussion first. Anybody else on discussion for those priorities? I would just say that the Raspberry Road is something that's, if we get the help with it, it's gonna happen real quickly. Because we're already getting, we have money promised to us from the state to help us, not enough to do it. And we have money that the county may help us with, although they haven't given us 100% confirmation on that. So it appears to me if we can get any money from Triumph, that would be number one priority. And the other ones I know they've been working on, so with that, any other discussion? Okay, let's go to voting on the priorities.
Mr. President, I
Yes,
have my
Mr.
finger up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Block, I didn't see your finger.
All right, you clarified one method and means of the topic at hand, but now, in our discussion, yeah, I'll agree. The Raspberry Road is number one in the priority. But I do have a question. I find nowhere in no data I have received the estimated cost of that. Do we have that available at any time yet?
We do, and it depends which route you're looking at. I'm going to call up someone from Public Services to comment on that.
All right, let me add a part two to that, Mr. President.
It should be in the paperwork that you have.
It is at the bottom of page
At the
one.
bottom of the page under Raspberry Road, it states the estimated cost is $7,891,000.
That's a drop in the bucket, but my question is, where and what anticipation are we looking for to obtain these remaining funds? What source to get to that 7 million?
I don't know how much we're gonna get as it stands, so I don't know what the difference is gonna be.
It ain't gonna be no 7 million though.
I don't have a good feel for what the Triumph, what would come to us.
No. Okay, Mr. President.
Mr. President, what the request is to Triumph for the $7 million. And if you don't get whatever you get, but.
That's it.
We believe that the cost will be less than that probably, because the exact end, the western end, is not defined because of the interchange discussion at I-10 and Antioch Road. So we believe it's gonna be less than this, but this cost came from what was in the long-range transportation plan back in 2012, and it was updated to today. We didn't do a complete new cost estimate going to the new terminus of Raspberry Road. So we believe it'd be less, but this is the only number we can present right now.
All right, Mr. Cook, thank you.
But, Mr. President,
Yes.
let me finish up that. Per se, we get starting money, or when and where, and is there gonna be a piecemeal this thing, or what? From y'all's estimation to begin with.
I don't understand your question.
You start the project, we don't get these other funds as needed to complete this project, then you gotta go to prioritize number two, et cetera. What predicament is that gonna put us in then?
Well, that'll be a predicament.
That's a predicament,
I
you're right.
understand, yes, sir.
Yeah,
What probably should be done is a better, more defined cost estimate for the Raspberry
right,
Road,
exactly.
which we, in the time that we had, we could not do that. Not understanding where it would end on the west end near Arena Road because of the change and the new interchange at I-10. That's kind of, we don't know.
That's true. I'll hold my rest of the questions.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Now please vote on the motion. Voted 5 for approval. At this time, we'll take any comments from the audience. Ms. Parker, do you want to come up at this time?
I appreciate the fact that we're getting something listed in this, but I do agree with Mr. Cox's comment earlier. As far as numbers and priority, it looks like the amount that is being discussed is the amount that would equate to probably one project, not 3 projects or not a 4th project. The city has participated. I don't know who has filed it as far as it being a county project, but the city of Crestview for over 20 years has worked on this project in this location. I would just like to make that statement that the Raspberry and the secondary, the 2 other projects have come about more recently, and that one is a long-term, long-time project for many years that has been set here. So I don't want to jeopardize getting the other, but I do want to go on record in saying that the city of Crestview has put a lot of time, energy, PD and E studies and various other things into this project for the P.J. Adams Arena Road. And a portion of that supposedly is a city road. Whether it's dollars or not, the Arena Road area is a city road. It's not a county road. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Mr. Kell?
As a newsman, Cal Zentmeyer from WAAZ WJSB, I have begun to notice over months now that you folks have documents that you look at, you read, and you vote on that the media is not seeing. And then tonight's stuff, whatever you've had in documents, is not on the website. Just the basic one-page agenda is there. So for us to report this accurately, we need to be able to see what these documents are that are all out here, I hope, Mr. Holly, in the sunshine. And I have one other comment. Mr. Blocker, you just made a statement that we 3 have been working on. Who do you meant by we 3? And how would, huh?
May I speak, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Parker, you may have.
PTO members.
Okay. Okay, so at that level you've worked on it, okay. I was trying to figure out how y'all, I realize PTO you can go to and talk about stuff that you still come back here and vote on later too. It's kind of a quirk we
I'm
have.
sure you can get copies of anything that they.
Right here. I brought extra copies.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think as a matter of fact, these things should be available before they come up here to you, or at least at the same time. But this is not the first time I'm observing this here, that where more and more you guys are getting stuff, it's put in your box before a meeting, and none of us sitting back there to report on it, and you want us to report accurately for you, have these same facts and same documents to work from.
My mistake, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments from the audience? I know it's a special meeting, but open it up to the mayor. Do you have any remarks for us this evening?
Yes, sir. I would thank you for going ahead with this opportunity tonight. And I do appreciate Mr. Steele and Mr. Fox and everybody with Public Services. They've been working on some of these items for years. And now is the opportunity to move forward. We've had some assurances from one of our county commissioners that there can be some, with the Raspberry Road item, that there are some monies that will be available that they think, as commissioners think, will be able to be applied to this Raspberry Road extension. And with that change, with the interchange going maybe in a different direction than what we originally thought it was going to be in a different place, is going to open up that entire area for economic development out there that may not have been there before. So it's if this project can move forward, it's going to be a parallel road to I-10. It's going to open up an area that's been isolated before, and it's going to take a lot of traffic from that area on into our downtown area, and that part of keeping it off of P.J. Adams and also of 85 going to that place. So it's a win-win. So I appreciate the fact that you're going ahead with that as a priority, because we do know that Okaloosa County is going to decide where the appropriations go. And I have no fear that Okaloosa County will provide funds for, if they get Triumph funds, it's going to go to that P.J. Adams. development there. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that that'll be first on their list. I would think it would be. But I'm glad you're putting it in the order that we are now, because I think that roadway is probably going to be safe for the county. The Raspberry Road, there's a lot of people interested. The county is very interested now in talking to us about developing that Raspberry Road project, because it's going to make a big difference for this entire area right here. Much more important than many people may believe at this point, more important than I believed a year ago. But I can see with some changes that the state is looking at, that's going to help us out a lot. Just one last thing. The mark is on Saturday at 11 a.m. All those elected officials who are available to be, if you'd join me on stage at that time so you can be recognized. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, do you have anything for us?
No, I was just gonna mention the mark, but, Mayor, I do have copies, and since these projects weren't actually discussed until today, I do have copies for the media if you guys would like to have copies of them. So I brought extra copies just for you.
Mr. Hawley, any remarks for us?
I don't have it.
You don't? Mr. Jones, Sergeant of the Department Head, anything for us?
Well, just glad to be here. Glad Mr. Cook was here to answer any questions. He's worked really hard on all of these projects, so he's designed a lot of them. And like I said, the PJ Adams project is going to impact both of the two projects that we have, the top two. So, so it's going to be a good thing if we get the PJ Adams thing all the way around. It'll help us. It'll be cheaper, and I think the county will surely back us, especially on the Raspberry Road. They will want that to happen too, because it's going to be a benefit for them also. So, but I think Ms. Roy conveyed exactly Mr. Steele's feelings, and I think you guys voted accordingly. So,
Thank you.
everything worked out good.
Chief, you have anything for us?
Nothing, just to remind everyone that our memorial ceremony is tomorrow night, 5:30 Warrior Hall. Public's invited. I'd like to see as many of y'all there as we can. It's not a long ceremony, but it's a very moving ceremony. And this is our 5th annual memorial and appreciation ceremony. So I'd like to see you there.
Ms. Murray, you have anything for us?
No, sir.
Chief?
No, sir.
Teresa?
I just ask that if your appointee is not here tonight, I'll need their phone number from the council, please. Thank you.
Any last remarks from council members? Yes, Mr. Fairclough.
I was just wondering, I've been getting lots of inquiries, and I was just wondering if Ms. Teresa could give us an update on some of the businesses that are coming in and the construction. How's all that progressing? Are there any new ones?
Well, the build-outs are coming in now. The different food services that are going to be up in the Crestview Corners, their interior build-outs are coming in. Of course, everybody knows about the new New York style pizza. They're open and running now.
Good place.
There's a lot of them just almost ready to open their doors.
Anything on the Ryan's location?
No, we're in communication with them constantly. They are tweaking out the remainder of their parking there and the entrance. They're also working closely with the Fairfield Inn and Suites, which are going to be their neighbors. The Fairfield Inn and Suites have got their first permits to do their land site work, which is going to affect the Chick-fil-A's site work. And they've picked up their permits for that. So that's up and running. And although it's not in the city, I did see the field crew out on the new Waffle House location up at the north end of town. Publix is moving and shaking.
Oh, yeah.
We have received one of the final pro sets for the proposed Walmart in its new location with the roadway changes for the alteration of the roads. So that's in, and I think we got comments from the public services today on that. So that's running right along.
Have they settled on the real estate yet? Because that was what the hold-up's been.
Yeah, it's.
And talking to Mr. Durrell in here the other night, he said there was some things there that.
Yeah, they're gonna negotiate on that right down to the last minute. But they do have their plans in and they look good. So, that's about the main ones that's up and running.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Oh, Steve.
That's okay. Just a couple comments, a couple observations. Don't forget about the May Day Fiesta festivity that'll be coming up week after next. Observation. I'm one of those media type freaks that I do Facebook and emails and all these other things, and by looking at certain sites, I realize that our citizens are still not as informed as they should be. And I think we need to do something towards working towards that better information that we can provide to our citizens, because a lot of them are very uninformed of how the city operates or the city procedures or things that pertain to the city. They just don't have the correct information, and we got to provide that to them. And I get that by some of the things I read, that they're just not aware of things on that. I don't know which way we can address that, but I think we need to try to work toward the method of addressing our citizens more on information of how our city operates, and things like that along that nature. And I don't know what we can do, but I think we need to try to keep working on that.
Yeah, Kim, we'll let you wrap it up. How's that?
In response to Mr. Hayes' comment, I'll offer any of you all the time that you need on camera. We can stream it live if you like. We can post it wherever you want. But I give each individual of you an invitation, weekly, monthly, to come into the studio and spill your hearts out.
Like
You
that.
too, Mayor.
That sounds good.
All right.
Take you up on that.
So you get information out that way. We've got over 600 people watching this.
Thank you.
President, before you adjourn, I got a comment.
Well, go ahead.
I'd like to address to Mr. Reese. Is there any questions or issues pending to the Endyne Incorporation? I was asked that question. Has the city provided every ounce of information needed? They said they was understanding there was still some issues with Endyne.
The permits have been closed out where they did the improvements inside their building, so those permits have been satisfied. That's all we've been asked to do, so I would have to check with the building official if he's received anything in the last couple of days.
Well, I said I will pose that question tonight, and I will give you an answer by Friday.
Said that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.